A single shot that echoed through time. The sound of the rifle cracked through the frozen air, sharp, sudden, final. For a brief moment, the snow-covered forest of Eastern Europe stood still. No birds, no wind, only silence, and the faint echo of vengeance. They say every bullet fired in war changes something. But this one, this single shot, didn't just pierce through a helmet, it tore through history. This is the untold story of Private Alexander Volkova, a man who was never meant to be a hero, but whose one act of revenge would alter the course of World War II. He wasn't born a killer, he was made into one by the brutality of war, by betrayal, and by the loss of everything he loved. As the Red Army pushed westward, as Europe burned, and as nations crumbled under the weight of ambition, Alexander's world narrowed to one thing: revenge. And when his finger pressed the trigger that winter morning in 1944, he didn't just kill a man. He silenced a monster and changed the fate of a war. Before the war, the boy from Smolensk. Before he was a sniper, Alexander was a farm boy from the outskirts of Smolensk, Russia. The world then was simpler. Days began with the smell of bread and ended with his father's stories about honor and courage. His mother used to say, "War is what happens when men forget they are human." He never thought he'd learn the meaning of those words so soon. When the German forces invaded in 1941, everything Alexander knew vanished. The tanks came first, then the smoke, then the screams. Within a week, his village was gone, burned to ash. His parents executed. His younger brother Mikhail taken by the occupiers for labor. Alexander was 17, and from that day he stopped being a boy. He joined a local partisan group hiding in the forests. They fought not for glory, not for medals, but for survival. He learned how to shoot, how to hide, how to disappear. But above all, he learned to wait, because revenge, like war, demands patience. Becoming a ghost, the sniper of the East. In 1943, Alexander was recruited into the Soviet Third Shock Army. There, his precision shooting caught the attention of Captain Petrov, a man who saw not a soldier, but a weapon. Under Petrov's training, Alexander became something else entirely. He learned wind calculation, camouflage, and the art of invisibility. He could hold his breath for 90 seconds, steady as ice. By the Battle of Kursk, he had already taken 42 confirmed kills. But for every enemy he killed, one image haunted him: his brother Mikhail, lost behind German lines. Rumors spread among the Red Army about a sniper called the Ghost of Smolensk. No one had seen his face, only his signature shot, a single bullet to the left eye. Clean, precise, personal. Every time he pulled the trigger, he whispered one word: Mikhail. The letter that changed everything. In December 1943, a captured German courier carried a list of prisoners being moved west. Among the names, Mikhail Volkova. Alexander's heart stopped. His brother was alive. But the document also carried another name: Oberst Reinhard Weiss, the officer commanding the transfer. A man notorious for massacres across Eastern Europe. A man responsible for burning entire villages alive, and the same man who had ordered the execution of Alexander's parents. That night, Alexander made a silent vow. He would find Weiss, and when he did, he would not miss. Into the Wolf's Den. January 1944, the Eastern Front. Weiss's column was stationed near Vitebsk, a frozen ruin turned fortress. Alexander volunteered for a solo mission, reconnaissance, they said, but he knew what it truly was, a hunt. For 3 days he crawled through snow and silence, surviving on melted ice and willpower. He studied guard rotations, wind direction, and Weiss's habits. The colonel dined alone every night at 1900 hours by a window overlooking the camp. Alexander waited for the right moment, not for glory, not for war, but for peace, for a kind of justice only a bullet could deliver. The moment of truth. Night fell. The temperature dropped to -20 degrees Celsius. Alexander lay still in the snow for 6 hours. His heartbeat matched the rhythm of the wind. In the distance, the faint light of Weiss's room flickered through a frosted window. He adjusted his scope. He exhaled, and for a second, he saw not the officer, but his parents, his brother, his burning home. He whispered one last word, Mikhail. The trigger clicked, the bullet flew, and in that instant, history changed direction. The shot heard across World War II. The bullet shattered the window, then silence. Guards rushed in, chaos erupted. Weiss was dead before his body hit the ground. But what no one knew was that Weiss carried coded documents, orders for the relocation of thousands of Soviet POWs to execution camps. With his death, those orders never reached command. Thousands lived because of one bullet. Within days, whispers spread through both sides of the front. They called it the shot heard across the Eastern Front. But for Alexander, it was not victory. It was closure. The price of revenge. The mission's success made him a hero, but inside, Alexander felt hollow. He found his brother's body weeks later, dead, buried in a shallow grave near the camp. The Germans had executed the prisoners before retreating. He had avenged his brother, but lost him all the same. War took everything from him: family, peace, identity. All that remained was his rifle and his silence. After the war ended, Alexander disappeared. Some said he returned to Smolensk, rebuilt the ruins. Others said he stayed in the mountains, living like a ghost. The forgotten hero. Decades later, a declassified Soviet file revealed the truth about Operation Winter Silence, the mission that changed history. It credited no one, no medals, no mention of the man behind the shot. But in 1992, a historian found a faded diary buried in the archives. Inside, one sentence written in trembling Russian script. One bullet for my brother, one silence for peace. It was signed A. Volkova, the legacy of one bullet. Today, few remember his name, but that's how Alexander would have wanted it, because true heroes don't seek fame, they seek peace. His story reminds us that even in the darkest winters of war, one man's courage can rewrite history, that one act of revenge can save thousands of lives, and that sometimes the loudest echoes come from a single shot. The shot heard across World War II, a sniper's revenge, a brother's love, a story the world almost forgot. Thanks for watching.